Hello, and welcome to the drum set guide for the secondary school band director. This video contains demonstrations of the exercises found in the manual. While viewing the tape, the reader should follow the musical examples. The examples are presented in the order that they appear in the manual. The manual is divided into 7 sections. Part 1 is called Getting Started. It contains a key for notation for the drum set, information about assembly and adjustment of the drum set, cymbal selection, and selection of sticks, brushes, mallets, and the bass drum beater. Part 2 is about the many ethnic styles that make up jazz. Part 3 is about brush patterns, and drawn diagrams illustrate each pattern in the order it appears in the manual. Part 4 is about embellishing notated rhythm patterns and setting up the band. It explains how a drummer should embellish notated rhythms that are typically found in jazz ensemble drum parts. Part 5 is called Beyond the Basics, and it explains more advanced drum set concepts. Part 6 is called Musicianship, and it discusses musical concepts for ensemble playing. Part 7 is a list of books, videotapes, and discography. For an illustration of drum set notation, refer to Figure 1 in the manual. First thing we need to do before we set up our drum set is we need to lay down carpeting like the one I'm standing on here. This is so that the pedals don't creep away when you work them. If you're playing on a venue that has a smooth floor, such like a gymnasium, high school gymnasium, you'll want to have a carpeting. So part of the drummer's gear, standard part of the drummer's gear, is a piece of carpeting. The height of the drummer's throne is important because the drummer needs to work the pedals easily. As you can see, I'm sitting, my hips are slightly higher than my knees, maybe about a 15-degree angle or so. It needs to be comfortable and not too low or too high so the drummer can work the pedals easily. Next, we're going to set up the bass drum and the hi-hat. On the side of the bass drum, you'll see there will be spurs such as these. Different manufacturers have a little different design. Normally there's a wing nut. It's open like this. And a spur that comes out. Do the other side. And I'm going to set the bass drum slightly to the right for right-handed players. For left-handed players, be slightly left. Next, I'll place the hi-hat under my left foot. Most manufacturers make the hi-hat stand pretty much the same. It's a tripod, 2 brackets for the foot pedal, go in these holes. Tighten the tripod with the wing nut. And the top section usually has a rod in it. Screws into the bottom section. This goes over and replace the hi-hat clutch. To install the bass drum pedal, bass drum pedal itself has 2 brackets. These brackets squeeze together and go in these holes. Now to put it on the bass drum, the rim of the bass drum is going to go right in between here. So we just lift it up, place it, and tighten this wing nut. Next, we're going to mount the toms. Most manufacturers will have a tom mount, something like this, with a hole in the top of the bass drum. It simply goes in like that, and tighten the wing nut. This particular manufacturer has this type of tom mounting bracket. Goes right in there, tighten the wing nut. The tom itself has a mounting bracket or hole in the side, and this simply goes into here. Tighten both of these wing nuts. floor tom here mounts the same way. There's a mounting bracket. It's the same type as here. And our toms are mounted. Next, we're going to place the snare drum right in between the legs here. It's the best position for it. We spend a lot of time playing on it. The snare drum stand, tripod will open, tighten the wing nut, place it there. We open these jaws right here. Place the snare drum with the snare strainer toward me so that I can throw the snares on and off right here. Tighten up the jaws. And there we are. The placement of the cymbals is important because the drummer spends about 85% of their time playing just on the cymbals. I'm going to go ahead and mount this crash cymbal. Here on the stand, just take this wing nut off, place it on there. Put that back in, and we can adjust the height this way. Next, I'm going to place the hi-hat cymbals on the stand. First of all, the bottom cymbal is a little heavier. You take the hi-hat clutch off, put it over the hole, and it rests there. Next, the hi-hat clutch needs to come off. This bottom nut needs to come off. And it goes right like that through that hole. That felt washer goes there, and the nut goes back on. Then goes through the hole onto the post. Press it a little bit with our foot, tighten the hi-hat clutch, and we're set up there. For the diagram of the arrangement of the drum set, refer to the manual, figure 2, on page 23. The manual also speaks about a concept called the different planes of the drum set. This is nothing more than a logical arrangement of the instruments of the drum set so that we can reach them with ease. The first plane I think of is the drums themselves. Even though they're not at the same height and aren't on a perfect plane, that's the first plane or level of instruments. The next plane or level are the hi-hat and the ride cymbal. Even though they're not completely level with each other, they need to be in a way, in an area where we can hit them. About 85% of the time, the drummer is riding the ride cymbal or the hi-hat, and they need to be in a comfortable position so that they don't have to stretch for continuous playing. The other levels are the cymbals. As you can see, there are multiple crash cymbals, and the first level is here on this cymbal, and there's a little level in between for this cymbal. The higher levels are for multiple crashes if they're desired. Cymbal selection is important for several reasons. One is that the drummer spends about 85% of his time on the ride cymbal or the hi-hat. The ride cymbal is important, and it's called the ride cymbal because the drummer said to ride the cymbal, which means that he plays the predominant ostinato of a pattern or a style, mainly on that cymbal. Now the ride cymbals, there are many different kinds of ride cymbals. The ride cymbal I have set up for me right here is a jazz ride cymbal, and it's 20 inches. Sounds like this. Manufacturers make other ride cymbals. Here's a thicker ride cymbal. Has a nice dome. Now manufacturers put stamps on each one of the ride cymbals explaining what they are. And these guys have been working in these factories for many years, and their expertise can be trusted. So if you're looking for a jazz ride cymbal, find one that's stamped jazz ride cymbal, and it'll sound characteristic of a good jazz ride cymbal. Crash cymbals are for sustained notes. I have two crash cymbals of different pitches to articulate quick passages. They're a little thinner than the ride cymbals. The hi-hat cymbals are important. As I said earlier, the bottom hi-hat cymbal is a little heavier. Top hi-hat is thinner. It sounds like that. Another type of cymbals are special effects cymbals. I have here a 10-inch splash cymbal. And it's for 10 inches, quite small. They call it a splash because it doesn't sustain much. It chokes quickly. Sounds like this. Here's a 12-inch splash. So splash cymbals decay quickly. To my right, I have a China boy, and it sounds like this. Has kind of a trashy sound, but it certainly is a nice effect if used sparingly. Manufacturers make many different types of sticks for different functions. These particular sticks right here are very large, and they're used for marching band. And they're designated as 1S. They have an awfully big bead, and it wouldn't be good for a jazz ride cymbal sound. It's not concise enough. It's not a good ride cymbal sound. These sticks here are meant for orchestral, and they're marked as number 16. These sticks are also for orchestral, and they're marked general. The sticks that we would use for drum set are these right here, these 4 pair. This particular pair is endorsed by a professional drummer, and they're meant for drum set. As you can see, they have a nice small bead. The diameter is not too large. That's more of the type of the sound that you want from your ride cymbal. Here we have a pair of 5A and 5B. And either of these pair are dandy for drum set. Now these have plastic tips, and you can tell you get a bit more of a metallic sound. But these are the proper size. 5B are also good. Here's a pair of what are called combo sticks. These are very small, probably about the size of 7A or 8A, and these are great for combo. And you can hear has a smaller bead for a nice concise sound on the ride cymbal. Now brushes, manufacturers make many different types of brushes. These particular brushes are what they call non-telescoping. As you can see, these are telescoping. They slip in. These do not. And that's pretty much the only difference. These have wooden handles, these have rubber handles. We can do many different things with brushes. You can rub, scrape, or use them like a snare drum stick. As you can see, they're very quiet. I prefer these with the telescoping ends, simply because when you pull them, you can put them in your stick bag and you don't have to worry about the wires getting bent or anything. I also like the little wire handle at the end. And you can do all kinds of neat things with this. You can scrape. You can hit them on the bell. You can even use the rubber handles for rolls. Another type of brush is a plastic nylon brush. These are also telescoping. And they're pretty much just as good as the other types of brushes, except for they get a slightly different sound with nylon. Some of these brushes aren't really brushes at all. These are actually switches. This is a specialty stick or specialty brush made by this particular manufacturer, and they're not really for scraping or rubbing at all. They're more for using like snare drum sticks. Gets a certain type of sound. These here are switches, and they're a series of tiny sticks bundled together. They're great for colors, but they don't give a real concise attack, but they have nice colors. Soft mallets are also a real necessary part of the drummer's gear. Now, I've seen a lot of drummers use timpani mallets, and that's fine. The only problem I personally have with timpani mallets are that the felt wears out on the head, and then the core comes through. And instead of playing felt and having felt be heard on the cymbal, the core comes through and it sounds like wood. These are some rattan-handled marimba mallets. They're yarn wound, and they don't wear out. They're much more economical, and I personally feel that they sound much better. The rattan handle has a bit of resilience. It's not rigid, so it gives a little bit. It has a very nice sound. I believe they're a superior sound to timpani mallets. Use them for rolls. You can even use the backs of the handles. They sound great for rolls on drums. So remember, marimba mallets are probably better than timpani mallets. Much more economical, they'll last much longer. The bass drum beater itself is usually made of felt. Now, manufacturers make them in wood, acrylic, hard plastic. But this is traditionally the most versatile. The other designs with acrylic and harder substances get a bit of a harder sound on the bass drum. But for your school jazz band, this would be fine. In terms of tuning the drum set, one general rule you need to remember is that the bass drum should be the lowest tuned drum. Size, the larger bodies vibrate slower and therefore resound at lower frequencies. And the smaller drums will be higher. They'll be resound at higher frequencies. The main thing about a drum set that you want to be able to tune it is you want to have the head tight enough that you can play on it, but not so loose that it puckers. The particular pitches of the drums, they should be either a minor third apart or a perfect fourth apart. And the reason is for this is this breaks up tonality and doesn't favor any particular scale or key. The snare drum should be tuned tightly, and you should be able to get a rebound off the top head, and it should get a characteristic snare drum sound. Here are these toms. And the snare drum, bass drum. During the course of the video, we'll be changing the configuration of the drum set slightly. This is simply for purposes of demonstration. The following examples I'm going to play are the basic styles from the manual. You need to refer to the manual for a full explanation and a notated example for each demonstration. It's very important that each drummer learn these styles fluently. The first section of the demonstration are traditional jazz and rock styles. Figure 3 is an example of swing. Swing is in a ternary subdivision of the beat, or triplet subdivision, as opposed to a binary subdivision, which rock is in. Figure 3 is swing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure number 4 is the shuffle. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 5 is a jazz waltz. Jazz waltz is nothing more than swing in 3/4 meter. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Figure 6 is 12/8 blues. 12/8 blues is normally a very slow tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 7 is basic rock. Rock is played with a binary subdivision, or straight eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 8 is funk rock. Funk rock is rock with a 16th note subdivision, usually in the hi-hat or the bass drum line. Figure 8 is funk rock or funk. 1, 2, 3, 4. Latin American, Brazilian, and Afro-Caribbean styles are almost always in a binary subdivision of the beat, or straight eighth notes. Figure 9 is the mambo. The mambo is usually played at a very fast tempo. The mambo is a 2-measure pattern, and I'll play the 2-measure pattern 4 times, or 8 measures of mambo. 1, 2. Figure 10 is the songo. The songo is a rhythm actually written for a drum set by legendary Cuban percussionist Changuito. Again, the songo is a 2-measure pattern. I'll play it 4 times for 8 measures of songo. 1, 2, 1, 2. The next style is the 6/8 Afro-Cuban. The 6/8 Afro-Cuban is sometimes written in 6/8 or 12/8 meter. This is the 6/8 Afro-Cuban in 12/8 meter. 1, 2, 1. Figure 12 is the bossa nova. Bossa nova comes to us from Brazil and is very light in texture. Again, the bossa nova is a 2-measure pattern, and I'll play each 2-measure pattern 4 times, 8 measures of bossa nova. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 13 is an authentic Brazilian carnival samba for drum set. The drummer imitates a Brazilian percussion section. Again, this is a 2-measure pattern, but each measure is in 2/4. Brazilian music is usually in 2/4. I'll go ahead and play 8 measures of Brazilian carnival samba. 1, 2, 1, 2. And the final Latin American style is the jazz samba. The jazz samba is in a binary subdivision, not a ternary subdivision. It sounds like this. 4 measures of jazz samba. Brush playing is important in jazz. Jazz drummers use brushes to play ballads and other up-tempo styles. Brushes allow us to play very quietly, and it's a very thin and transparent texture. Figure 15 in the manual is a diagram of the left-hand motion that causes most of the sound in a brush pattern. Figure 15 is played like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Notice on the circle how I'm giving a little bit of a flick with my wrist. That helps to delineate the beat. Figure 16 is a swing with brushes. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 17 is the double circle pattern with brushes. This is effective for very slow tempos. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 18 is a jazz waltz with brushes. Figure 19 is the bossa nova pattern with 1 stick and 1 brush. What I do is place a stick in the left hand to do a cross stick. The right hand plays with the brush. And it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 20 is a samba with brushes. I just take the left hand in kind of a scraping sort of motion like this, and the right hand simply taps on the top of the head. We do this in 16ths. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Here it's a samba with brushes. 1, 2, 1, 2. Embellishing notated patterns and setting up the band is a very important function for the jazz band drummer. Kicks are written on a page in a part, but it's our job to make up our own improvisation around them, but yet playing the figures that are written. Figure 21 is an example of a rhythm pattern typically found in jazz ensemble drum parts. Sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Figure 22 shows rhythm pattern number 1 and an embellishment that's played together. What I'll do is I'll play 3 measures of style. The 4th measure will be figure 22. Then I'll play 2 more measures of style to give you a feeling of this kick pattern in context. Figure 22. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 23 is another rhythm pattern that's found very typically in jazz ensemble drum parts. Figure 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I'll play it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 24 is this rhythm pattern and an appropriate embellishment. Again, for all of these examples, I'll play 3 measures of time. 4th measure will be figure 24, and then 2 more measures to put it in context. Figure 24. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 25 is another typical rhythm pattern found in jazz ensemble drum parts. It sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 26 illustrates rhythm pattern number 3 and appropriate embellishment. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 27 is rhythm pattern number 4. It sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. The old Charleston is called. Charleston. All right. Figure 28 is rhythm pattern number 4, embellished. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 29 is rhythm pattern number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Figure 30 is rhythm pattern number 5, embellished. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figures 31 through 36 provide examples of the same embellishments in a rock style with straight eighth notes. Figure 31 is rhythm pattern number 6. Sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll play it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Figure 32 is rhythm pattern number 6, embellished. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 33 is rhythm pattern number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3. Figure 34 is rhythm pattern number 7 and an appropriate embellishment notated together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 35 is rhythm pattern number 8. It sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Figure 36 is rhythm pattern number 8 and an appropriate embellishment. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figures 37 through 40 are embellishments in Latin American styles. Figure 37 is rhythm pattern number 9. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Again. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Figure 38 is rhythm pattern number 9 and an appropriate embellishment in jazz samba style. In jazz samba style, the style isn't to be kept intact. What's kept intact are the bass drum and the hi-hat to keep the feeling of samba. The hands will have to be busy doing the hits. It's figure 38. 1, 2, 1, 2. Figure 39 is rhythm pattern number 10. It sounds like this. Again. 1, 2, 3. Figure 40 is an embellishment with rhythm number 10 in a samba style. 1, 2, 3. The section called Beyond the Basics is about developing four-way coordination. Sometimes in jazz ensemble parts, the hits are written above the staff as smaller notation. This usually means that hitting these kicks is optional, or what they want is you to hit the kick in a more discrete way. So what you do is you would play the style, the ostinato, and then hit the kicks above the staff with the left hand, or with the bass drum if they're written below the staff. Figure 41 is an example of swing. Again, I'll play 4 measures of swing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 42 is an independent snare drum pattern that's to be played with the left hand on the snare drum. It sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 43, we're going to play both parts superimposed on each other. Figure 43 sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, the independent snare drum pattern is to be played without disturbing the ostinato. Figure 44 shows another example of a rhythm pattern typically found in a jazz drum part. It sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 45 is swing with the added snare drum pattern. It sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 46 is an independent line to be played on the bass drum. It sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figure 47 is swing with the added bass drum pattern. Sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Figures 48 through 50 are embellishments in a jazz samba style. Again, figure 48 is jazz samba style. Figure 49 shows jazz samba style with independent snare drum pattern number 1. It's figure 49. Figure 50 is jazz samba style with snare drum pattern number 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. The section on musicianship talks about important musical concepts for drummers, like ensemble playing, timekeeping, proper dynamics, balance between each instrument, touch, musical form, and interactive listening skills. When playing in an ensemble, you have to listen to the other people in the band. You have to adjust your dynamics accordingly to blend with the others in the band. You always have to be aware of what you're playing and what the others are playing. Good timekeeping consists of an even pulse, and to accomplish this, you might want to try practicing with a metronome. Practice with a metronome and without a metronome are both very important. That's why knowledge of the styles, a very fluent knowledge of styles, is essential for playing well in a group. The proper dynamics are very important. By nature, the drums are a loud instrument. Historically, they've been used to communicate across far distances, like in battle or before there were telephones or anything like that. So by nature, the drum is a loud instrument. So we as drummers have to be sensitive and make sure that we're playing at the proper dynamic level for whatever setting we're in. Balance between each drum is important. In certain styles, there are predominant voices and subordinate voices. In particular, in the mambo, the predominant voice is the bell of the cymbal. All other voices are subordinate to it. Oftentimes, I'll see young drummers make the mistake of playing swing with a very loud bass drum on all fours. That's not stylistically correct. If you play all 4 beats on the bass drum, they're to be played inaudibly. Basically, what that's for is the drummer to keep a feel of a quarter note. Bass drum is not to be heard. Touch on the instrument is very important. One should have a working knowledge of the rudiments and have control of the stick before sitting down on the drums. I like to make the analogy to my students that if you have problems playing one drum well, it's going to be even a bigger problem when you're playing multiple drums and multiple cymbals. And if you have touch and control of the stick, it's easier to play at the proper dynamic level. It's easier to play soft. It's easier to play loud. Working with the rudiments, having control of the stick, is very important to playing the drum set. Musical form is very important. A drummer needs to be conscious of where they are in the tune. Many jazz tunes, many pop tunes have a certain form, be it 32 bars, 16 bars, and that's a harmonic structure that keeps reoccurring over and over and over again. A drummer always has to know where they are in the form of the tune and help delineate the form through dynamics or through switching a cymbal on a chorus or getting soft when it's time to play the melody through again. hopefully as you play and get better, the form won't be such a problem. You won't have to concentrate so much on it. After a while, after you play enough, you'll just begin to feel the form. And finally, it's very important, is interactive listening skills. I can't stress that enough. You have to be aware of what you're playing, and you have to be listening to every other person in the group. Thanks for joining me for the drum set guide for the secondary school band director. I hope this film has been informative and helpful. And just remember, as you encourage your students to practice and to play with others in groups, they'll get better and better. And as they get better and better, they'll enjoy drumming. Thank you.